he gave me the courage to stand up to her and tell her that I couldn't communicate with her at all.
Welcome to JW Broadcasting.
Hey, I'm Son of Thunder, and thank you so much for joining me again in the most wholesome place on the internet. Today I'm going to play a video that's going to anger you a little bit, and about a year ago I made, probably a year and a half ago now, a video about shunning, and I want to go over again how we can combat shunning and not let Jehovah's Witnesses and Watchtower get away with twisting Bible verses in completely utter ridiculous context and using it against us. Now remember what we're up against. Remember that people commit suicides, they have anxiety, panic attacks, all kinds of things that happen from shunning and losing your family. So I take this subject very serious. So let's take a look at this clip of this 10-year-old girl being applauded for shunning her sister.
Well, we have a couple of sisters that we want to interview. First, we have Sister Melody Thomas. She's from the Knoxville Northwest congregation. Melody is 10 years old, and she was baptized late last year in November. So I have a couple of questions for you, Melody. First of all, what specific fear has at times challenged you in your service to Jehovah?
Well, a specific fear deals with one of my sisters who is disfellowshipped, and she had contacted me before my baptism and was encouraging me to keep in contact with her. And even though I do miss her and love her, I know that if I didn't maintain contact with her, it would be difficult to stop communicating with her if I started.
Okay, well thank you for sharing that. Now Melody, how has Jehovah helped you overcome that fear?
Well, Jehovah has helped me cope in many ways. He gave me the courage to stand up to her and tell her that I couldn't communicate with her at all because I didn't want to hurt my relationship with Jehovah. And he also helped me with so much sorrow and loneliness and missing her. So growing my relationship with Jehovah through prayer and studying has really helped with this and all my fears.
Okay, well thank you for sharing that, Melody.
It's been a couple days and I still can't believe what I've seen. Now, we all need to be able to combat this, and I wanted to take you to this article in the Watchtower that I thought was so unbelievable. Let's listen in for a second.
Questions from readers. Would it be appropriate for Christian parents to sit with a disfellowshipped child at congregation meetings?
Yeah, you absolutely heard that correctly. That is an actual questions from readers that's still found on jw.org, where it's asking if it's appropriate for Christian parents to sit with children who are disfellowshipped. Now, we're going to look at this article and we're going to use the scriptures they provide and prove how false they are, and all of you need to be equipped to do this. Scrolling down to the bottom of the page, just look at the wording here where I underlined. It says if the faithful members of the family have the proper attitude toward their disfellowshipped relative and they are endeavoring to honor the scriptural counsel, let's see what that's about, concerning association with them. And they cite 1 Corinthians 5:11 and 2 John 11. Now, keep in mind, these are the scriptures that teach you that you should shun your family, shun your children, shun your parents. So there is a lot of weight on these scriptures, and they have no other scriptures that they use. So we all need to be absolutely versed and experts at these easy Bible verses to prove them wrong. Let's go to 2 John 11 first and watch how sneaky they are. As we've previously discussed and discovered, that this little thing where you click and the scripture pops up is not because they really want you to know what the Bible teaches. They want to hide the context. And notice when you click it, it says, for the one who says a greeting to him is a sharer in his wicked works. And it also says not to say a greeting. So they're using this as the proof text that we should shun our friends, family, parents, children. It doesn't matter. So let's look at the context. Every one of you should know the context of 2 John chapter 1 and verse 11, because this is the one that says not to say a greeting. Not to say a greeting to who? Always be prepared with this. Just looking at the previous verses, it will only take you a few seconds to prove your family, relative, or friend completely wrong, that they ought not shun you. And if they want to, good riddance to them. But look at verse 7. See, verse 11 is where it says not to say a greeting. Verse 7 says, "For many deceivers have gone out into this world, those not acknowledging Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh." This is the deceiver and the Antichrist. And when you look down, it's saying that if anyone doesn't bring this teaching, don't bring them into your homes or say a greeting to him. And this was specifically in reference to those who were knowingly denying the resurrection of Jesus Christ, or that he came in the flesh. Not someone who may be ignorant of the facts or someone who wants to leave this cult. It is absolutely a grotesque misuse of Scripture to use this to justify shunning. There is no other verse that they even attempt to take out of context that mentions saying a greeting or not saying a greeting. So the moment you show them this, they absolutely will have no leg to stand. Unless, of course, you're the Antichrist, like the Scripture says. Let's move along to the next one. And to all of you listening out there, please approach this with the utmost confidence when you do it. Show them they're wrong. So far we see that they use a scripture about the Antichrist and they apply it towards us about not receiving a greeting from our JW family and friends. And they mix it with this one, 1 Corinthians 5:11, that we should not even be eating with such a man, as it says, or keeping company, when you click on that verse. But what is this verse talking about? Let's look at the context here as well. As you'll quickly see, this is highlighting a special circumstance that the Corinthian congregation was going through, as it says up top where I underlined that it was reported that there's someone living with his father's wife. And the problem with it, as it's circled at the bottom, is that this is someone called a brother, and they're acting as if they're doing nothing wrong, and they're basically being a hypocrite. And notice, even despite all of that, nowhere does it say not to say a greeting to him. It's just saying don't hang out with him like normal because he's doing something that's pretty up. I mean, we can only hope that this person was not related to his father's wife by blood. I'd imagine if he was, it wouldn't have worded it this way. But notice another detail. It says, "I'm writing you to stop keeping company with anyone called a brother." So when you leave, according to them, you're no longer their brother or sister, so this automatically now does not apply to you. And I know I keep saying it, but again, it does not say anything about refusing to say a greeting to them or shunning them in public or not answering the phone. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe they've gotten away with this for so long. Now, if you haven't seen this particular horrific film about this girl that leaves for a time and gets shunned by her parents, I have another point to make, and this film really brings it out. If you've not read The Prodigal Son, just wait till we compare what the scripture teaches and how the JW parents acted and how other Jehovah's Witnesses are being trained to act. Let's read The Prodigal Son first, and then we'll take a look at this inexcusable propaganda training video. Now, for Jehovah's Witnesses that have the courage to sit through what I'm about to show you, which is scripture, try to contrast this with what the organization teaches in general and in this video that we're about to take a little peek at. But look at this scripture. The prodigal son went and took his inheritance of his father and went and spent it all on prostitutes and whatever it was. But look at the wording in verse 20. It says, "But when he was yet a great way off," so the prodigal son wants to return. It says that his father saw him. Now there's a reason why it says when he was yet a great way off. It says that the father fell on his neck and kissed him, and immediately commanded that an animal be killed and they have a party because his son came back. Immediately. Now how does that contrast to what this propaganda video teaches? Let's take a look.
Sonia Erickson has been disfellowshipped.
It crushed my whole family.
Okay, to continue the meeting.
Before we continue, I want everyone to just take a deep breath and appreciate that you're not doing this right now. Look how horrible. So she gets disfellowshipped, and then here's where they have the talk and he kicks her out of the house. But let's get to the part that I want to contrast with the prodigal son.
Jehovah is ready to forgive. So I decided to go to the Kingdom Hall for the first time in many years.
Remorse is healthy. It can move us to take positive steps to correct our mistakes.
It made me realize just how far off track I had gotten. I was determined to qualify for reinstatement. Nearly a year later,
Before we begin the parts,
my reinstatement was announced to the congregation.
Sonia Erickson is reinstated as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So she dragged her children without any help for nearly a year and sat in the back, and this cold, ridiculous clap, and her family, it's awful. Now, remember what it said about the prodigal son. Look at these fake parents. I can't even stand to look at them. Let's go back to the scripture. Now the prodigal son, he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him, and had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. When he was yet a great way off.
Nearly a year later,
Nearly a year of doing this. Where is that in the Bible? Well, there you have it. What do you think of the context that I showed you? Is it clear? Do you think you could use it on your friends and family? I think we all collectively should fire back and not let Watchtower and Jehovah's Witnesses get away with this without at least being embarrassed by the misuse of Scripture. At the very end of this video, I'm going to be playing a little clip about the prodigal son and Jesus telling the story of the prodigal son, and I want you, if you can hang through it, it's only 5 minutes long, just take a look at the difference between the video we saw with the parents and the girl coming back with her kids and having to sit in the back of the Kingdom Hall, and they even admit it's for a year, and then they get, she gets reinstated and she gets these cold, horrible hugs. I mean, but just compare what happens with the prodigal son, how he comes back because he squandered all his money, and immediately when his dad saw him from afar off, he hugs him, kisses him, and gets a banquet ready for him. What a big contrast. I mean, it says when he saw him afar off.
Nearly a year later,
the father of the prodigal son ran to him and took care of him right away. But then we see on that video that the girl whose parents wouldn't answer the phone for her, she sat in the back of the Kingdom Hall in that little room like an outcast for admittedly a year. Watchtower is so wicked, and I know a lot of you out there are dealing with shunning, and I want you to know that my heart is with you. I've been through it too. It could have been a lot worse for me. I did lose every bit of my family except for my parents, which, like I said, it could have been worse, but it's still hard seeing all your friends drop off. I know the feeling. So if you need to email me if you want to talk about this, feel free to email me here. I know, take a look at the comments. I'm sure you guys can connect with each other in the comments section. So hang in there. And as always, I'm Son of Thunder, and I'm here to keep watch for you. Until next time, and don't forget, after the credits, the Prodigal Son video.
Yes, we are proud to be Jehovah's Witnesses. This is the best organization on earth. are proud to be Jehovah's Witnesses. This is the best organization on earth.
I'd like to tell you a story. Sit down, sit down.
Sit down.
A certain man had 2 sons. And one day the younger of these sons said to his father, "Give me my share of your estate now." So his father divided his wealth between his 2 sons. And a few days later, this younger son set off for a distant land. And there he squandered all the money he had on riotous living. Now, not long after this, a great famine swept over the land, and the boy began to starve. He persuaded a farmer to hire him to feed his pigs, but he was so hungry that even the husks he was feeding the swine began to look good to him. And still, nobody gave him anything. Finally, the boy came to his senses. At home, even my father's servants have enough food, and to spare. And here I am starving to death. I will go home and ask my father to hire me as one of his servants. And so, he set off. Now he was still some distance from his home when his father saw him coming. And he was so filled with compassion that he ran towards his son and embraced him and kissed him. The boy said, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and you. I am not worthy to be called your son." But his father called for the servants and said, "Bring me the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Put rings on his hands and shoes on his feet. Kill the fatted calf. We must celebrate with a feast." My son was dead and is alive again. Now, the older brother, at this time, was working in the fields. And as he came back to the house, he heard the noise of music and dancing. He called for one of the servants and asked what was happening. And he was told. At this, the older brother became very angry, and he refused to go into the house. The father came out, tried to plead with him, but he wouldn't listen. "I have worked for you all this time, all these years, and never once have I disobeyed you. And in all that time, you've never even given me so much as a goat so that I could have a feast with my friends. My younger brother comes back, having spent all your money on harlots, and for him you kill the fatted calf. Please,